Right. Well, thanks, Jeannie. And first, let me start, Gilberto. That's super helpful, and I think your experience will be valuable to others that are in your shoes of looking to looking to get going with Lozen. So so I figured what I would do is just kind of ask you a couple of questions about your experience installing the software, and feel free to point out any roadblocks that you hit or things that uh, took you time to get that done. So let me start with the
Mhm.
beginning. How did you guys get the actual software distribution? What did we send it to you with share file, or did you have it already? How did that part get started?
Mhm. Yeah, that was shared with us through a shared file, right? So we were able to download it, upload to our mainframe systems, and then start from there.
Good, good. Any particular challenges with that, or it just kind of went smoothly?
So that was very smooth, right? So it was a zip file, just had to unzip it and put everything that I needed on the mainframe side. I had everything on the OMVS side that was required for unzipping and installing the product.
Good, good, good. Yeah, from time to time, we run into things where the person doing the unzipping maybe didn't have the right privileges, or that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Any issues like that for you guys, or you just were good to go?
Yeah, so we didn't have any issues related to security, right? The only point towards security that I would like to mention is that we created new file systems for that product just to be in standard with the process we do for installations here, right? So we created new high-level qualifiers and allocated the correct path to that file system, right? But that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I would say that's a good decision. I think we would definitely. I mean, there's no hard technical reason that it has to be done that way, but certainly we would recommend set up a new identity for Lozen or VirtualZ, whatever you want to use, and then create a file system that's owned by that ID, and then install into that. That keeps it segregated out from anything else you might have on your system. We've seen things like,
Mhm.
some customers will turn on our debugging logs. Those files can get really,
Mhm.
really large. So it's handy to have a separate file system for that stuff that you can, size appropriately. So you mentioned security.
Mhm.
Any issues getting the prerequisite permissions in place? There's a few things I know we need permission to. Did you do that, or do you have a separate group that does that? Was that at all
Mhm.
a problem for you?
Yeah, for our installation, I was able to accomplish everything that was required for the installation, right? So because I have some experience with storage and RACF, I was able to do all the tasks that were required, right? So just as you mentioned, create a specific user ID for Lozen, having the file system, having that allocated, having that automated mount for the path that we decided, and also having the batch for starting during or at IPL time, right?
Yep, yep. No, that sounds good. So, anything on the network side that you had to set up?
Mhm.
Some customers block outbound traffic on certain ports. I mean, any of that come up for you guys, or that wasn't an issue in your site?
Yeah, for network side, I just had to make sure that from the mainframe side, we had the port available for use, right? We used the standard 2049, so it was available and we were able to use that, and also confirm it with the networking team that the network traffic was allowed to and from that port, right? And from the AWS side, we also made sure that the EC2s and the instance that were being used during this installation were also able to reach out the mainframe and through that port, right?
Yeah, I would imagine, you guys being AWS, your network is probably significantly more complex than, many customers
Mhm.
would be. So if you were able to sort through that, that's a good thing. Yeah, and,
Yep.
and I think you did the right thing by using the default port. It's possible to use any port that you like just by changing the configuration, but what a lot of folks don't realize is that when you do that, your clients all have to know what port to use. Much easier just to use the standard, and then the clients will just connect without any custom configuration there. So yeah, that sounded like a good thing. So when you actually run Lozen, is it how did you do that part? Is it just the Unix services script? Did you do it with JCL? How did you configure that part?
Mhm. Yeah, okay. So the configuration was done directly from the Unix system service, right? And for the first part, just make sure everything was working right. I just issued the commands to start and stop, check the logs and the STD outs to make sure that everything was working as expected, right? Once we had it all working and configured properly, I went ahead and started or created a batch and automation so it could be started once we do an IPL and stop before uh, shutting down these systems, right? So we were able to test both sides, doing
Oh,
through command line and through batch as well.
nice, nice. So you're doing kind of really both possibilities. That's a good thing.
Yep.
All right. That's
Yep.
any issues with Java? Do you happen to know which version of Java you guys are running?
Yeah, we also tried quite a few different Java versions, right? So we started with very the older version of Java, which is Java 8, went through Java 11 and also Java 17, and we didn't notice any errors or any issues that could be related to Java version being run. So it gives you the flexibility to run through different Java versions if required, right?
Yeah, yeah. We build the software so that it will run on Java 8 or above, and we do notice that going from 8 to 11 is a pretty significant performance improvement. We've measured about 30% better going from 8 to 11. Not so much 11 to 17. That seems pretty similar, but I would think what you're doing, anything other than 8 is probably the best place to be there from a performance point of view. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like the experience was generally pretty straightforward for you guys. How long do you think all of that took? Was it a couple of hours, couple of days? I mean, how much time did you put into it?
Yeah, from my side, I think it took me less than half a day, right? So actually just a couple or a few hours to do all the download, install, and configuration from the um, ZOS side, right? And then a couple more hours to check out with networking team and AWS side to make sure the all the network configuration and connection was available, right? But it was, as I mentioned, a couple hours or a few hours at most.
Good, good. Yeah, and that's certainly our goal, to make it as smooth and painless as we can. On the client side, you mentioned you use the Linux, I'm assuming just the built-in operating system NFS drivers on Linux image.
Mm-hmm.
That worked well for you? You were able to get that going with really no trouble? Good.
Yeah, exactly. So for the tests, we used an Amazon Linux instance, right, and mounted the ZOS using the regular mount available with the Linux operating system that worked smooth from the first time. So it was just regular mount into the IP that was resolving to the mainframe, and then selecting the path that we wanted to map.
Good, good. And the data that you're working with, is that an existing thing that you had, an application data set of some sort, a vSAM file, something like that, or you created some data for this? How did that go?
Yeah, exactly. So we used mainly vSAN data, right? Because when customers are going through a modernization, that's usually where there's more it's more complex, right, to share and to replicate between environments. So we use vSAN data to make sure that we were able to read from the AWS side with no problem, right? I populated a large KSDS file, right, key sequence file, just make sure that I was able to receive the data and browse it as it should be from the Linux side.
Nice, nice. And that's pretty much exactly how our testing usually starts as well. But yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's a good thing. What uh, do you know what specific size mainframe you guys are running? What model it would be? Is it a
Yeah,
C15?
mhm. Uh, I don't recall the hardware version, right? I know the ZOS version is 2.4, right? So we're using ZOS 2.4 here, probably Z15, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've done this, but I'd be curious if you've attempted any kind of benchmarking or performance test or anything like that. I would imagine in your environment that probably runs pretty well.
Mhm. Yeah. I didn't perform any specific benchmark on accessing or reading the data, right? One thing we did consider and check it after the task was the zIIP utilization, right? Because that's usually a sensitive topic for customers. And I was able to verify that most of the workload was run through zIIP. Over 90% of the workload or the CPU was running through zIIP, right? So that's very important for the customers.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point too. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, we notice in our testing, I don't think I've ever seen less than 85%. And sometimes it's
Mhm.
95, 96%. A lot just depends on what other workloads you have running on your mainframe and how you're configured there. But 90% is a good general number. So I think that's
Mhm.
probably good findings too. Is your mainframe system busy? Is there one zip or many zips, or how is that configured?
Yeah, so I think we run in one zip, so but it's not busy that it would offload to a CP, so we were able to run it all on zip and not get any CPU constraints or anything to that regards.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. I mean, with a single test user, you'll probably find that a single zip is all you would ever need. If you got to the
Mhm.
point where you had, let's say, 10 different clients hitting at the same time, you might see that, we could use multiple zips there. Or if you just have one, it'll slow down a little bit as, one gets busy, the others will wait. But again, in a lot of our testing, CPU isn't a bottleneck. We rarely see more than 3 to
Mhm.
5% of the CPU being used by Lozen. Most of it's that, time in the network and reading the files and, that kind of stuff. That's not exactly CPU intensive kind of stuff. But
Good.
how about security between the mainframe and your client? Are you guys doing anything there? Are you doing, I don't know, a VPN or encrypted tunnels there, or how's that part working? Or are you just doing, because it's a test environment, you're just doing open at this point?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Even though we're using a test environment, it was still very secure because we run the Lozen to AWS communication running through a direct connect, which ensures that we have a physical dedicated connection between the mainframe and AWS. We also ran a VPN, a site-to-site VPN on top of the direct connect to make sure that the data trafficking through the connection was also encrypted, right? So it was secured from both hardware and software perspective.
Oh, well, that's actually quite excellent. I mean, if you have a way of doing exactly what you're doing, encrypting without using mainframe software to do it, that's that's definitely a positive. If you do have cryptographic coprocessors inside your mainframe, we use them, but it's still mainframe resources going to that. So by having a secure network or VPN, that's probably a much better solution for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's meant to be the most efficient option at the time. Yeah.
yeah, good. And I'm sure those are in your environment. That's probably very high bandwidth. What are they? 100 gig connections, 10 gig connections? Any idea?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know it's not like 100 gig connection, right? It's probably smaller, but it was more than enough for the test that we needed.
Yeah, no, certainly one client accessing one set of files, probably 10 gig connection is probably even more than you could use. But yeah, no, that's all really good. I mean, it sounds like your typical kind of large mainframe environment with all the complexities and all the features and all of that. So it's good to hear that everything pretty much worked first time for you. Um, any comments or questions or anything you think we could be doing better, or anything you noticed that way?
No, I think it was, as I mentioned, it was really easy to get it installed and get it configured, right? And once I had any questions or anything, I was able to communicate with you very well. Everyone was really responsive, so that was very good.
Good. No, good to hear. That's music to our ears. I mean, that's certainly what we strive for. But yeah, how about the documentation? Did you use the documentation that extensively, and how do you feel about it? Is it enough to get you going, and are you happy with it?
Yes, that explained everything that needed to be done. It had like a very careful step on what was required from the ZOS perspective and from the client perspective. So no issues there.
Good, good. Well, I think that's all that I have. I mean, it's actually sounds like a pretty boring task, which maybe is how you want it to be. I mean, Jeannie, I don't know if you had any other things you wanted to bring up or other comments.
No, thank you both so much. And Gilberto, thank you for sharing your experience with us and allowing us to share it with the AWS team and more through this video. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
absolutely.
Okay, bye everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.